Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, I'm back again, just looking at prophecy. Subject of prophecy, as usual. In the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of videos been going out, especially from members of the GMS, going into the topic of strangers and salvation and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But what I will say is that it's a Hassad state of affairs. If you understand what I'm saying, it's a Hassad state of affairs when someone takes the bag and then just completely does a 180 and starts teaching different. And you have to be careful out there. You know, there's these people that will pick up the Bible. They'll tell you that you're an Israelite, and they'll go through, I don't know, Deuteronomy, go through the curses, they'll go through this, that, and the other. So they come across as they're there, for your benefit. They're saying, well, look, I've got the truth. But then somewhere along the line, they knowingly teach you something that is incorrect. Maybe at one point they start off teaching something which is what's written in the book. And then, later on down the line, you'll find they change what they teach. And that's because they get to a point where somewhere, one of those teachers has taken the bag, taken the back pocket envelope, those payments. I witnessed the same with was it WFI, the Watchman for Israel. So when I first, like I've explained it before, the angel came, showed me blah blah blah, Israel, the children of Israel, so on and so forth. So then I had to look online and find people who were teaching the Bible the same way that the angel showed me. And so obviously when you come across Hebrew Israelites, the first thing, they talk to you about, the fake Jews, which is what the angel told me. It's fake Jews, the Jews are fake. So I'm looking for people who are teaching the Bible, but then are going to tell you that the Jews are fake. So I found that. And then after a little while, you start to realize there's many of these groups that teach that. So you think, so at first it seemed like, okay, these are the people that I need to listen to. But then after a while, you realize there's slightly different teachings and so on and so forth. I'm basically saying this for newer people. You realize that certain breakdowns of certain scriptures are different in different camps. So then you have the question to ask, which one is teaching the truth? Some will even give you different names. Some will say the Most High's name is Yahweh. Some will say Yeshua. Some will say this, that, whatever, Ahaya. I mean, it basically, and there can only be one truth, and obviously everything else is incorrect. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh. His son's name is Yahweh Shai. But then even within that, you'll find a false prophet who will tell you that the name Most High's name is Yahweh. But then he'll teach you that hell exists when it clearly doesn't. So, you get this type of thing all the time. And I remember, even with, as I was saying, the WFI. So I didn't really know which one to follow at first. And I started watching that, the leader, whatever his name is, that Nakwam. I watched him because he was in his living room, making videos on his smartphone in his living room. So I thought, well, and remember particularly, I chose him because I thought, well, he ain't trying to sell me anything and he ain't trying to make no money. So whatever he's teaching, he's got to be doing it because he knows something and he feels like he wants to tell you something. But lo and behold, 6 months, a year down the line, all of a sudden he gets the t-shirts, then he's got the megaphone, then he's got big groups of people going out there, and then all of a sudden he's got camps, all over wherever, all these multiple camps popping up and then you start it and then you go, come on, do you know what I mean? Someone's put money into this, and this is what it is. You'll notice a lot of these people, they've got the regalia, they've got the clothing line, they've got this, they've got that. There's something that they're pushing alongside the truth. And they're not really about pushing the truth. They're really about pushing what they want to push. They just use the truth as a gimmick to do it. If I want to sell rap songs, if I want to make rap songs, hip hop songs, and rap about something and sell them, I could come up with a gimmick. The gimmick could be Jesus. I could rap about Jesus and hope that people in the Christian church buy my songs. So it's just a gimmick. To these people, the truth is a gimmick, and that's why they're willing to adapt and change what they say in order to push what they're really pushing and keep making that money. So you out there have to be careful. You people that are listening, you're trying to work out who's who. If I've introduced somebody into the world of Israel and I show them, look, you're a Hebrew Israelite, blah blah blah. I usually send them GMS channels and say, look, subscribe to these. And what you'll notice with these particular people, they don't have the $1 million effects to provide with the video. Same as myself. When I make a video, I don't ask anything from you. Don't ask you to go anywhere. Don't ask you to be anything, do anything. Just listen. Just listen to what I've got to say. And what I'm telling you is the truth. Now, whether you believe it or not, that's up to you. That's on you. But that's usually, what you should look for. You're looking for the truth, and someone who genuinely has the truth, then that would then make that person feel obliged to spread it. Especially if it's the gospel of the Most High. And so that's not going to drive you into the direction where you're going to say, well, let me hustle this at the same time. So there's your big indicator. If somebody's trying to teach you the truth and he's not trying to subscribe you to this and that and whatever else, then he's probably got the truth. But that's what it is. It's a sad state of affairs when an Israelite takes the bag, a false prophet. But then that's what it is. You see, we're getting close to the pinnacle, the day of the Lord, the day that Yahushua comes back. Then it shall be known who are my prophets, as the scriptures tell you. So in between now and then, the Most High has to draw the line in the sand, and there has to be some sort of definition, especially as we get to that point where then those prophets shall be known. And then at the same time, false prophets will be punished. So, but back to prophecy. Oh yeah, this is what it is. Sorry, before I move on. Yeah, Swami. This is, I mean that, when you're watching these people, they teach you one thing, then they change it, then they switch to something else. That's the word, smart. When I watched those particular two, the Hassad state of affairs, and when I watch them, they come across as smarmy, which is they've described it here, ingratiating and wielding in a way that is regarded as insincere or excessive. It's not really a good description. This one makes it more plain. Smarmy describes someone who is overly flattering and fake. A smarmy student might tell a teacher, whatever. I remember when I first saw come across those particular people, you look at them and you say, well, there's nothing really genuine. You can see when people are genuine, when they're not, when they're trying to act in a certain way to make it set. This is another word that I thought of. Affectation. Obviously, I spelt it wrong at the top there, but you can see it here. Affectation, behavior, speech, or writing that is pretentious and designed to impress. So when you listen to the Hassad state of affairs, you'll that's what you get. It's affectation. He speaks in a way. It's almost like he's trying to persuade you or something. That's because he's not based on this belief. What he's speaking is not based on a belief system that can't be broken, and then he pushes that to you. what he's teaching is based on the belief that he's got something else to push or make money out of it. So then that, like I say, he then has to adapt what he says, and then that leads him to show affectation. That's how he comes across to me anyway. That's why I don't really pay them type of people no mind. But yeah, back to prophecy. Habakkuk 2. I will stand up upon my watch and set me upon the tower. It says, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, which is what the Most High will say. It says, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. So when the Most High speaks to you, shows you something, he could send an angel, he could send a dream, he could speak to you in his mind, whatever it is, and then you then take it on board to teach this truth. You're not going to deviate from just giving the truth out for free because of where you receive the message from. That moment where you receive the message, your spirit resonates, and you know not to mess. As Apostle Tahar says, play with your children. Don't play with the Most High. But these people that are willing to change what they say, they don't really have the belief. If they had the belief, they've had the fear. If they had the fear, they'd be shook. They would remember the Spirit working with them and showing these particular things, and they'd be scared to deviate from that. But they don't have that fear because they don't have the belief. It's just all a lie, basically. And when you look at it, it's not just in the world of Israel. There's false teachers of the Bible all across the globe. There's millions of them. So it's not like it's a rare spirit that we come across. Someone, people do it in the world. They love to tell you that they're part of the church. I believe in Jesus and I believe in God because they want to portray an image. They want you to think they're some holy, special person that can't do no wrong. They portray themselves in that light for that reason, not because they are that particular person. What you'll find is the person who is that person, who is like that, won't tell you they're like that. They'll just be it. But either way, I will stand up upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. It says, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon the tables, that he may run that readeth it. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but the end it shall speak. It says, and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And we're here in these times. It says here, write the vision, make it plain upon the tables, that he may run that readeth it. So the ones that run are the prophets. They take this message, they receive it from the Most High, they see what they've been told, and they tell you. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, and these visions that have been eventually put into paper, into the Bible, from these ancient prophets, all speaking of the same thing, which is the day of the Lord, the great day of destruction, the day of judgment for the world, and all the wickedness that's gone on. And then, after that, you could say it's the day that the kingdom of heaven starts, although there'll be a lot of work to do, because once this kingdom is destroyed, we have then the opportunity to set up the kingdom of heaven, which is a kingdom on earth, which will rule forever. The other nations will be in subjection to the Israelites, and everybody will live under the law of the Most High, and the world will operate perfectly in perfect harmony. So it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. And it is speaking. We're seeing all the problems. Donald Trump, make America great again. We're seeing all the problems around the earth, so on and so forth. I've got 2 articles here, so I'm going to go into Matthew chapter 24 in a minute. But I've got these 2 particular articles. So the first one here is Europe moves as the world starts its largest planetary defense drill, 3i Atlas. Now, this is dated 27th of November, which was Thursday. Today's Saturday morning, 29th of November, so it's 2 days ago. And if you don't know, out in space, obviously there's a lot of activity that's been taking place, and they've come across this particular object which they've named 3I Atlas. Now, this object is moving quite fast through space, as they say. It's heading towards Earth, and it's causing quite a stir. Let's read a bit about it here. It says Europe moves ahead as the world starts its largest planetary defense drill for 3I Atlas. It says in a world where space phenomena are rapidly shifting from scientific curiosity to strategic concern, which is what I'm saying. These so-called UFO sightings, which are, according to the Bible, the true name is the chariots of Israel, angelic vehicles. The sightings of these are increasing, especially around Babylon the Great, which is what's known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures is actually America, because that's where the main destruction will take place on the day of the Lord. It says Europe chose this week to make history. It says 1 day before the largest planetary defense exercise ever conducted, the European Space Agency, the ESA, approved a record budget of 22.1 billion euros. There's a move that positions Europe at the forefront of the global system, preparing for threats that may emerge from space. So, yeah, planetary defense exercise unlike any before. Tomorrow, so this took place the day after, so this was dated the 27th. This exercise took place on the 28th, which was yesterday. Friday is now the 29th. So tomorrow marks the beginning of the largest and most extensive planetary defense exercise in human history, and an international drill centered in part around 3I Atlas, which is approaching Earth at nearly 60 kilometers per second, and which is expected to begin moving away again around December the 19th. This exercise will engage nearly all major space agencies and dozens of scientific and research institutions. The object itself is foreign and mysterious. It says most scientists believe it is a comet, though a minority suggests otherwise. Its estimated size, roughly comparable to Manhattan, and its 5-month journey since discovery, moving between Mars, Jupiter, and Venus, has left its mark not only on science but also on the public psyche and geopolitical atmosphere. Now, I'm not going to read all of this, but they sort of like break it down, and they say, oh, there's not much risk, and this, that, and the other. But what is written here is, it says, in the past 2 days, after I published the official UN IAWN announcement, I received 2 reoccurring questions from readers. It says, if there is no danger. So what it is, you see, like I say here, they're basically telling you, oh, don't worry about a 3I Atlas. There's no danger, but we're investigating it anyway. So he's saying that his readers are coming back with the same question. If there is no danger, why conduct an exercise linked to tracking Atlas? It says if the comet is far away, they call it a comet, an object. They don't really know. Maybe they don't want to say. But it says if this object is far away, what happens if it suddenly changes direction? So, they're not going to go into it. If there's an army of angels heading its way to Earth, they're not going to tell you, because what are people going to do? The society will break down. People will stop going to work tomorrow. They'll say, well, nah, we don't want to do it. Why are you going to keep going to work for the next month if they tell you that this spaceship's coming, it's going to be here in 30 days time, we don't know what's going to happen. People are going to think the end of the world is coming, so they're just going to do whatever they want for the next 30 days. These banking elites, as much as they want to break down in society, which is what, if you told the world, we'll be about to be invaded from outer space, that you would have a breakdown in society. But the banking elites want to introduce the MOTB, so they want to create a new society. So they still need to keep the psyche of the human wanting to sustain his own life by the need of having to buy and sell food, for example. So the banking elites want to break down society, but they still want the human being to have a certain desire for life, to be able to then introduce you the MOTB and have you under lock. But when it comes to being invaded from outer space, they're not going to tell you that, because they will have a breakdown in society and people will just lose it altogether, because they'll say, well, we've only got 30 days, 60 days, we've only got this amount of time left. People will be borrowing money, splashing it, killing each other, doing whatever they want. So they're not really going to tell you, but there is this object. Like I say, if you don't know, there's this particular object in space. Hang on, let me see. If we can get some images. This one particular image here. Now you telling me that's a comet? You know, we've seen moving pictures of it. Obviously, we've seen the light, sequential lights. They call it, you know, like on the Audis, they have the sequential indicator lights to tell you when the car's turning left or right, and so it's pretty much the same thing. And this is all going into prophecy. We'll go into Matthew chapter 24 in a minute. But there's another article here. So this is another one I pulled up. This is November the 27th, again, Thursday, 2 days ago. It says a giant fault is splitting one of the world's largest continents. A new ocean is forming faster than anticipated. It says a giant crack is tearing through Africa and it's not slowing down. It says hidden beneath the surface, a dramatic geological shift is reshaping the continent faster than scientists imagine. In East Africa, desolate Afar region. In East Africa's desolate Afar region, where temperatures routinely reach 130 degrees Fahrenheit, the Earth is opening up. Massive cracks have begun cutting across the landscape, pulling roads and farmland apart, making what scientists say is a rare, live glimpse of a continent in the process of breaking itself into two. And so there's that's pretty much the picture there. I don't know if that's AI generated. It's probably real. What they do nowadays, a lot of the time, they'll take a picture and they'll get AI to you know, kind of like enhance it, which is just pointless. You're better off with a real life picture, which it could be. Says the ground beneath Ethiopia, Kenya, and parts of Tanzania is shifting slowly but unmistakably. Tectonic plates that make up the continent's crust are inching away from one another. So gradually, that the changes often go unnoticed, but sometimes abruptly enough to reshape the land within days. And you've got these particular plates here. You can see, I believe that's where the Afar triple junction. So you got, these are the junctions, the tectonic plates, and they're pretty much showing you the directions they're separating. You know, I got this because I came across a video, but I can't really remember what I did with it. It was a video. This one here about earthquakes. Don't really want to play it because you know what they're going to do. The YouTube are funny, but yeah, I came across this a couple of days ago. Global volcanic activity suddenly spiked after a period of intense solar activity. So lately, you know, there's been an increase. I mean, it's been happening over the years, but lately there's been a huge increase. So geophysicist Stefan Burns reports on a sudden increase in volcanic eruptions worldwide, from Africa to Asia to the Americas. says, is this normal rhythm of volcanic activity, or perhaps it is just the beginning of a larger wave of activity that could result in significant global effects? So, scriptures talk about Yahushua, visiting this earth on the day of the Lord in the sky. The vehicle, the scriptures refer to it as a cloud. We know that the world will refer to these particular things as so-called UFOs, and what we're telling you is that they're chariots of Israel. And we're obviously part of the scriptures, part of the end time prophecies is for the islands to move. Obviously, we're going to have nuclear ICBM warfare between Russia and America. All the nations that possess nuclear ICBMs around the world are going to shoot their ICBMs on America on the day of the Lord and destroy it within an hour. And obviously after that point, scriptures talk about the world rocking to and fro, islands moving out of their place. And but even here, we can see obviously volcanic, like this particular video is showing you volcanic eruptions, so on and so forth. When you trace back the volcanic eruptions, you pretty much come back to the tectonic plates. A giant fault, as it says here, a giant fault is splitting one of the world's largest continents. A new ocean is forming faster than anticipated, because obviously these tectonic plates are moving and it's causing earthquakes, it's volcanic eruptions, so on and so forth. So, we're in that time where the Most High visits this earth. Donald Trump signifies the, if you like, the final act. You've got this story, and the final act is for Donald Trump to come in. He's the man who he was once, aka he was Nero in his past life, and when he was Nero, he declared himself as the chief enemy to the Most High and the Most High's people, which is the Israelites. He's here to pretty much bring this world into war, World War III. When you look at the political setup roundabout based on that, you've got America defending the small hats. The American people are getting fed up of it. The world is watching this situation with all these children being murdered in the Middle East. And the world is starting to find out who's to blame. You've got this situation with Epstein. And again, they've got their fingers involved, these small hats with America. So, what the Most High is doing, he's having all these things revealed all over the earth. It's causing uproar, and it's pushing America and the small hats into a corner. And obviously once it gets to World War III, this is why these other nations are going to have good reason to go after them. He's going to have the Battle of Armageddon, which is a Hebrew word meaning mountain of troops in the Middle East, so on and so forth. So, but before I go, what I wanted to do is read Matthew chapter 24. Again, this is more for the newer person. If you're coming into this lately, and what we're trying to show you is the urgency. It says, as it says in Habakkuk chapter 2, it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. So it's speaking loud and clear now. You just have to be able to know what the prophecies are to be able to see them playing out in the earth. If you don't know what they are, then you can't see them play out. You have no idea what's happening. And, when people show you, you say, well, what do you mean? So it's important to get into these scriptures. It's important to get into these prophecies. Keep listening to these videos over and over again to allow the information to sink into your mind, so you have a good picture of what to expect in the very, very, very near future. And then when you've got that information, all you do is look out into the world, look at the news, and you'll be able to filter it through the scriptures, and you'll realize it. But at the end it shall speak. So we're at the end, and it's not lying. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So this is Matthew chapter 24. It's Yahushua speaking in red. It says, and Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. It says, and Yahushua said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So Yahushua, he's pretty much gone into prophecy, and he's showing them that the temple is going to be destroyed, which you would go back to 70 AD for that. It says, and he sat, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, it says, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? It says, and Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. So now you've got Yahushua about to give a rundown of events that are going to be signs in the time of his return. He's told this to the disciples, but he would have told the disciples that this is going to happen in many, many years in the future. So the disciples would have understood reincarnation. They would have taught that because they knew the scriptures very well. They were, first hand being taught by Yahushua. So they would have understood that reincarnation is a biblical concept. They would have understood that they'd have to be reborn in the future, and then they'd have to work out, well, how do we know, when the end is coming? What's going to happen? So Yahushua gives them a list of signs. Now, when you go to the book of James, it says, pretty much Yahushua says that he will send the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, to comfort you and to give you the knowledge, the understanding of the scriptures, stir your mind, to bring you back to remembrance. And that's what's happening now. You've got the disciples who eventually became apostles. You've got all the followers. That entire generation that was alive at that time with Yahushua is alive and functioning today in this modern day society. That's why Yahushua told them that's the generation that's going to be. Yahushua came to speak to that generation, and second time round, it's going to be that same generation on earth who are going to witness his return. It says, Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. It says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am anointed, I am Christ, I am the Christ. This is not a name. It's just got a capital C, but it's just a descriptive word. It says, I am anointed. You could use that instead. It says, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So, at the minute we're living in this time with wars, rumors of wars. We've had the Ukraine war. It's been going on for a few years. You've got this war with Hamas. And there's all these other various little skirmishes going on around the world. There's talk of war between Russia and this nation, and Russia and that nation, and China and this nation, and so on and so forth. But they haven't quite come to fruition because it's all leading us up to that Third World War. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, it says, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So, we're seeing obviously on the worldwide scene, there's a problem. Like I say, we've Iran, the small hats, and there's talk of Russia getting involved. Russia at war with Ukraine. So all these things are leading us towards World War III. It says there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. So famines will come when the MOTB comes, when inflation kicks in, and that one's coming soon. Pestilences, diseases, we had that in 2020, 2021, that could easily come back again. It says, and earthquakes in diverse places. It says all these are the beginning of sorrows. So that's what we're telling you. We're at the beginning of sorrows. We've just entered into Jacob's trouble. Donald Trump is the man to take you there. He's been anointed by the Most High to be that man, to take the world to those particular prophecies, the final act. And as you're seeing all these things around you, problems with immigration, civil unrest, um, rumors of war and war taking place itself between certain nations. You've seen pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So this is where we're at. Earthquakes, volcanic activity. It's all the result of tectonic plates moving. And as they're finding out that these continents are starting to tear apart and move in their own direction. Like I say, scriptures talk about the islands being moved out of their place. You could say that's happening here, and obviously it leads to other things like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. These are all part of prophecies. When, as Yahushua said, look, these are going to be the build-up of things towards those days. So we're seeing them. But also, like I say, when the nuclear ICBMs start to hit America, the earth will rock to and fro, and then you're definitely going to have land separating from other pieces of land. And after World War III, you're going to have a new map of the earth. When I had the vision, when Yahushua came, the angel, 2018, and he showed me all this stuff play out on the earth. But the earth, the map of the earth he showed it to me on was upside down. And so for 7 years, I couldn't work it out. Like, why is this map upside down? But I worked everything else out. Everything else he told me showed me in that vision. He arrived, he came, and then he showed me something. So it appeared in front of me, and then he left. So what I saw, everything I've seen since that day, I've actually been able to go online, find information to back it, prove it, and have the actual physical the receipts, if you like, to what I was shown. But I never understood the world being upside down. Fast forward 7 years, Donald Trump, and then Yahushua came back and showed me the world was upside down, because obviously Donald Trump is going to turn the world upside down. Also, he explained to me, obviously, previous things about my past, which explained why the world was upside down. So it had some sort of significance to what I had done in a previous life. But it also had significance to Donald Trump turning the world upside down. And then, like I say, he's the man that's going to take us to World War III, the nuclear ICBMs, and the reshaping of the worldwide map. But all these are the beginning of sorrows. It says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. It says, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. It's a sad state of affairs. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So, we're living in a world today where it's getting colder by the week. And I don't mean, temperature-wise. I'm talking about in terms of humanity. You look around the world today, people don't give a damn. And this is the whole point. Somebody asked me a few weeks back, like, what's your take on Gaza? Well, a lot of wickedness goes on around the world, and people hear about it, and they say, oh, that's terrible, but then they brush it off and they go back to work, or they go back to doing what they've got to do, because everybody's got their own thing to do. What the Most High is doing, he's giving the world the reason to go after these people in World War III. The son of perdition, the son of destruction being revealed, that are these Edomites, and the chief of the Edomites are the Amalekites. The Amalekites are the small hats that stole our identity and that are living in the land today. So if the Most High is going to punish them and punish America and use the other nations to shoot ICBMs on them, there has to be, there have to be a real reason for it. So all this stuff you see every day, constantly, children getting this, children getting that, Epstein, Gaza, it's saturating the mind with the wickedness to the point where when it's time to press the button, nobody's going to give a shit, because they're going to go, well, it's very well deserved. You know, there's making a mistake, and then there's continued wickedness. And what the Most High is showing you is how much continued wickedness these people are really about. You know, the veil being lifted off the nations, and that's part of the it's the love of many waxing cold. You know, you get that, and you know, you go on people getting into rage arguments over a parking space or over a traffic light or a, you know, just because this guy wanted the lane first before you, people are ready to shoot each other. So there's waxing cold over that. But you know, like I say, even on an international level, you flick through social media, it's just you know, the insults are bad. People getting bullied online. So there's all this type of like, you know, you pull up a video of a brown person doing something bad. All of a sudden you got loads of comments on there. Deport, immigration, this, that, and the other. So it's just everywhere you go, it's just an assault on your senses. That's the world you're living in right now. Your senses are being assaulted by the by the by the powers that be. You know, and obviously they have a plan, but the Most High has a plan, and ultimately you have to stick with the Most High through the thick and the thin that we're about to experience. It says, but he that shall endure to the end, and that's exactly what I'm saying to you, the same shall be saved. So you can't be saved until the end. It says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So when you come across a follower of the religion of Christianity and he tells you that Jesus saved him, you can ask him, what did Jesus save you from? Because he hasn't saved you from the end, because we're not quite there yet. It says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all the nations, and then shall the end come. So it says, you know, it says the gospel will be preached in all the world. We've been doing that through the internet, and this video is going out there. You know, they're going out to worldwide. So it says here for a witness unto all the nations. So it's we're speaking, and what we're putting down is a witness according to truth. We're witnessing everything. We're giving a testimony, and we're leaving it online for people to witness around the earth. It says, then shall the end come. It doesn't say that everybody's going to necessarily listen to it. You know, people ain't going to necessarily take interest in it. There's many people around the world, these other nations, you know, they won't hearken unto the word. But, you know, that's when the Most High brings the day of destruction, and so on and so forth. So the next part goes into 70 AD. Yahushua speaks on prophecy regarding 70 AD, but we've already gone past that. So Matthew 24 says, for then shall be great tribulation. So, you know, verses 15 to 23, it's pretty much speaking of 70 AD. So Yahushua obviously spoke of his coming, all these different things. And then he pretty much jumps to 70 AD. He explains what's going to happen during 70 AD, and then at verse 24, then he jumps forward into the future, into the trouble now. It says, for then, verse 21. So for then shall be great tribulation. So that's the time we're expecting now. Let's not worry too much about what happened previously. It says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. It says, no, nor ever shall be. And that's the time you're about to witness. So in this time now, you're going to need the King of the universe. You're going to need a higher divine power to get you out of these situations. Now, maybe you're not used to seeing these situations. You know, we don't really witness the things that happened 2,000 years ago. We haven't seen the disciples or the apostles, you know, working with the Holy Spirit, healing people, so on and so forth, or, you know, what some of the ancient prophets did. But you're going to see that in a big way very soon. You're going to start to see divine intervention. Certain people will be given spiritual power during the time of Jacob's trouble. Then you're going to have a so-called UFO invasion, angelic vehicles. invading the skies. They're going to be shooting laser beams of fire, on America, on the land of Israel. So you're going to have to expect things of divine intervention to take place. When the Israelites get beamed up out of the way, America gets destroyed, the elect, and then they get put back on earth. They're going to come back to earth with spiritual power. And that's how they're going to put everybody in subjection. So, when you read this, such was as not since the beginning of the world to this time, don't take that lightly. There's a hell of a lot. There's only very few prophecies to take place. There's a very short time in compared to the thousands of years we've waited for this time. But there's still a hell of a lot to happen. But a hell of a lot has to happen within a very small, compressed amount of time. It says, except those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh be saved. This is, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So that's something else that we've witnessed, pulled out videos about how the scientists say that the days are actually becoming shorter and shorter because the Earth is rotating faster. Now, it's not by a huge amount, but they're saying that prior to like 2020 or 2019, it was actually spinning slower than normal. So the Earth was spinning slower than they expected. And then after 2020, it started to speed up, and now it's going slightly faster than it should. It says that if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is the anointed, or there, believe it not. It says, for there shall arise false anointed, false Christs, and false prophets. It says, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So if you're part of the elect, you may have just started paying attention to these videos. You're still sort of learning. You're realizing that the world's heading for a real dark time, and you're trying to find salvation in the Most High. What you're ultimately hoping for is to be of the elect, a group of people destined to be delivered in the day of the Lord. And even during the time of Jacob's trouble, scriptures talk about my servants. The Most High said that his servants shall eat. It says, behold, I have told you before. It says, wherefore if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. It says, behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. It says, for as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. It says, for wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. So Yahushua is going to appear like lightning in the skies. And when he does, it says there will be eagles gathered together wherever so the carcass is. So there's going to be great death. And when Yahushua comes back, there's going to be false prophets and so on and so forth. I'll finish the chapter real quickly. So the glorious return, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. It says, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So this is talking about the nuclear ICBMs. Just after, it says immediately after the tribulation of those days. That's the days we're heading into. We've just started to witness, and those days are going to get very hectic. Like time like never been seen. It says immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. It says, and the stars shall fall from heaven. The stars falling from heaven represent the nuclear ICBMs. So they kick up a lot of dust, break up a lot of land. You're going to have dust clouds, and so on and so forth. It says, and the powers of heavens shall be shaken, and that is representing the governments. People say, well, heaven is a place in the sky. Well, heaven is also a place on earth. You can, if you're living a good life, you could say, well, I'm in heaven. But you could be living on the street, and if I said, well, are you living in heaven? You'd say, no, I'm not living in heaven. But if you're living in a mansion, you've got 25 million in the bank. I said, your pretty wife, I said to you, are you living in heaven? You might say, yeah, I am. So the heavens represents the governments. It says, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. So then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. It says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. That's that group you want hoping to be of. It says, from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So yeah, Yahushua goes into the parable of the fig tree, verse 32. Matthew 24:32 says, now learn a parable of the fig tree. It says, when his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. So I've just given you a rundown of all these events, and pretty much all of them are happening before you, but they do have to intensify. And like I said, it's got to get to the time, or as Yahushua said, it's got to get to the time where the world witnesses tribulation like never been seen before. But the parable of the fig tree says, when his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So you see at the end of winter, you start to see sprouts, little offshoots coming off the plants, the dead plants. And what does that tell you? That's a sure sign that summer is nigh. You would bet your house on it. It says, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. So when you see all these things sprouting, wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, tribulation, civil unrest, signs in the sky, Yahushua is coming in the sky. What they got the 3-eye Atlas investigation drill, or whatever they did. It says, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. It says, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So Yahushua is speaking to that generation while he was alive, but that generation is the same generation here today. So everybody on earth would have been on earth at that time back then. The disciples are back. The disciples turned prophets. The people that responsible for everything that happened to Yahushua, all the people involved along the route, even the male factors, they would be back here today. So everybody in that generation, we'd expect them to be here today, and that's how they understood reincarnation. Yahushua is telling them. That's why they're asking, how are we going to know when you're coming? And he's going to go, well, this generation is going to be the same generation, and when I come, all these signs will appear. So when you see those signs, know that it's like the leaves on the branches, and summer is close. It says, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. And so now you understand why it spoke about 70 AD and he spoke about now. Why did he choose those two moments? Because he's talking about that generation receiving trouble at the time when he was alive, and then that same generation is back here today to witness the time that never been seen before. So that's why when you go into this chapter and you say, well, why did he just randomly jump from that one to that one? It's not just randomly. It's because he forespoke of two major times when the children of Israel are going to be in major trouble after he was put on the cross. So that's your two major times. But like I say, one of them's gone, so we don't have to worry so much about that one. One of them we're about to experience, and it's the one that's like no other. So we have to be clued up and watching. The Most High is coming like a thief in the night, but only to those that don't watch. So likewise, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. It says, verily I say, I've read all this. It says, but of that day and hour knoweth no man. It says, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So the Most High is the only one that knows the day or the hour. It says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. It says, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So also, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. It says, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. It says, two women shall be grinding at the mill, and the one shall be taken and the other left. So, people are going to be, some places in the world are going to be total breakdown in society, but in some places in the world, people are going to still be able to function, and they're going to be trying to go about their daily business, and all of a sudden, Yahushua is going to appear. America's going to be destroyed by nuclear ICBM within the next following hour. The world's going to rock. But as soon as Yahushua appears, any member of the elect, whether they will be beamed up. So that, you could be at work, and you could be a man that's due to be delivered. Maybe your family is going to be delivered because of that, because of your family. You're at work, your family, your wife's at work, but then the little one's at school. But you don't have to worry about it, because Yahushua knows you, so he'll beam you up wherever you are from your irrespective places, so you can chill. You don't have to sweat that one. Therefore be ye also ready. I've skipped a bit, sorry. So we move on to verse 42. Be ready for his coming. It's the last section here. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour the Lord doth come. It says, but know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. So therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. So when you think, it's okay, I can chill, he's not going to come, he's probably going to come. So you got to be ready. There's a lot of Israelites, you tell them the truth. You tell them that they're an Israelite, there's a reason why you've been through this hardship. They lap it up. They lap it up, and then as soon as you say, well, you've got to now change your lifestyle, repent, and be a certain way to be ready for the day of the Lord, they don't want to do it. That's too much work. So what they say, nah, he ain't coming back for 10 years, 20 years, 1,000 years. And it gives them time to sit back and not have to actually address the ways, the things they're doing, which they shouldn't be doing. You have to be careful of people like that. It says, therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. It says, who then is as faithful as a wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season. It says, blessed is that servant whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. It says, verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. So you're in this world today trying to get all these things. You buy a house, buy a car, you have a family, then you want to buy this, and your little world, you want to rule over all these things. You want to make more money, and you want to have all these goods and these things to your life, but it's all temporary. And especially as you can see, Yahushua is on his way. Very soon these things are going to be taken away. So really you should be concentrating on what's coming in the kingdom, what's coming your way, because in that kingdom nothing will be taken away from you once you receive it. So, and it says, blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. It says, verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. It says, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. So it's evil. You people that are trying to delay the Lord, we're saying to you, look, the Most High is coming. He's coming quick. It's very soon. You should be alarmed. You should be ready. And then you have people who want to step back and relax and say, well, no, I don't think he's coming that quick. It's Yahushua describing you as evil. He describes you as an evil servant. So what will an evil servant say? It says, an evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. So that's evil to say that. And that's not out of my mouth, that's out of Yahweh Shai's words. It says, and he shall begin to smite his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunken. It says, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder and appoint him the portion with the hypocrites. It says, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And that's why when you go back to, it says, for as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. It says, for wheresoever, I have to work on that one. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together, because Yahweh shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's the return of Yahweh Shai. So, like I say, if you're new and you're just getting into this lately, this is something that you need to take on board really quickly and absorb, because that time is approaching fast. I'm going to leave it right there. I hope that was edifying. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakak Kwadash. And until next time, Shalom.